Blog Talk Radio.
Well, that's strange. Let's see. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever part of the country you're in. I'm not sure what happened to our intro, but it should have played. Can you hear me, Jeannie? Well, that's interesting. I wonder what's happening. And it looks like technical difficulty. Are you there, David? Is that your voice I heard?
That is my voice.
Okay.
Might be you and I.
Okay. Well, for some reason our intro didn't play. And so Jeannie's going to try again. Here we are having some fun with technology. But that's the technology world. In any event, this is Dr. Michael Ryce, and you're listening to Forgiveness Radio. Why is this happening to me again is the title of my book. We're here to support you in the process of wholeness and healing and well-being and dealing with whatever in your world really doesn't fit or doesn't work. David, how are you this morning? Afternoon where you are, morning where we are still.
Well, I'm looking at, there we go. I'm changing it from onto off of the intercom thing. So I'm doing well. It's interesting day. On Friday when we were talking, then one of the things that I wanted to bring up was we were talking about the Memorial Day, and how that was going. And interesting enough, I met a woman on that does conflict resolution for the Army and for the Air Force, and she invited me to come to one of her workshops on conflict resolution. And I said,
interesting.
Wow.
Where's this?
Well, I met her over at one of the neighbors at a yard sale on the way into town.
Cool.
And so conflict resolution, you resolve conflict without going to war.
Lost you, David.
Okay. Are you there?
Okay, yeah, we're here.
Okay. I said, so to the part I asked her about, so how do you resolve your conflict? Do you resolve the biggest conflict that there is about sending people off to war? She said, well, there's no resolution. That's too much money. There's too much money into that. I said, so what is it?
That was her actual response to you?
That was her response to me.
David, you're really cutting in and out. I don't know if you need to find a different location or what's happening with your phone, but I'm only getting about every other word.
Okay. Any better?
No.
Must be these technical difficult challenges that we're having. Is this any better?
That's better.
This is better. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just moved outside. So I'd ask her the question about, so how do you resolve this major conflict that we have about sending people off to war? And her response was, there's too much money into that. And I said, well, how do you resolve a conflict then? What is it that you do? And she said to me some words to the effect, said, well, I get people to compromise. And that's what I said there. I said, oh, you get a compromise. Yeah, I get to show each party where they're wrong. And I thought, wow. And this is what this person, and then she opened up to let me know that this was, that she has her master's degree in this, and that she teaches this. And she teaches it throughout the country. And it's like, wow. So how do we, and I thought, wow, I'd like to go to her workshop just to kind of check out and see what it is that she might be doing with it. So anyway, that was, I've been looking at this whole thing about conflicts and war and everything that we talk about here on the show.
Well, today is celebration day 8 of Memorial Day. So, and if you haven't been with us, if you're new to the show, on Memorial Day, we talked about how, kind of the standard thing is for most, especially younger people, is they really don't know what Memorial Day is about or don't really have a comprehension of it. And so it becomes, as they grow up, it becomes a time to have a day off work, have a party, and get drunk and serve animals for food. And we are putting a different invitation out, and we plan to carry on throughout the year a celebration of Memorial Day every day. So this is day 8 of the celebration of Memorial Day, and the way we're inviting you to celebrate is that you look at one thing in your life, as David's talking about conflict resolution, you look at one area in your life where there's conflict, where there's something based in hostility or fear, and you make a commitment today to resolve that, to do your best, to do some work around that issue. And the work that we are mostly talking about is the work of forgiveness. And forgiveness not meaning I'm going to let you off the hook for the terrible thing that's happening inside of me. Because, of course, if there's something terrible happening inside of me, it's happening inside of me. It belongs to me. It's mine. Letting you off the hook for the fact that I'm experiencing that doesn't change much of what's happening inside of me. However, we do have a way to change what's happening inside of you, and it's called forgiveness. Not the culture's idea of forgiveness, not the Greek idea of forgiveness. And it seems to be quite difficult to get people to comprehend. We've been lied to, folks. We haven't been told the truth. Forgiveness, as it was originally taught, has nothing whatsoever to do with letting other people off the hook for what's going on inside of us. Now, of course, we've got a test for determining whether what's going on inside of you is yours or not. And the test is this. Are you feeling it? If you're feeling it, then it's yours. But you say, no, they did it to me. I'm only in pain because of what they said or what they did. They really have a problem. Well, I agree with you in many instances, they really do have a problem. But if they're the one with the problem, why are you the one with the pain? Something about that doesn't make sense. So while it may be clear to you that they have a problem, and you may be absolutely right, we'll invite you to notice that you have a problem. And once you recognize that you have a problem, then the willingness to be responsible for that and begin to change that problem takes you out of the conflict and puts you into a mode called healing. Forgiveness, again, nothing to do with letting others off the hook. No more do we say, I forgive you, I forgive myself. We invite you to let go of that language because that language is based in an error. One of the things Karl Marx says is, change the meaning of a culture's words, you destroy the culture. Why? Because we have a thing called forgiveness. Let's take this as an example and apply Karl Marx's thinking to it. We have this tool, a well-known, well-established tool called forgiveness, which, if somebody's in pain, they can go inside themselves and totally change the root of their pain, totally get rid of their pain. Pain is totally optional. And so we change the meaning of that word to mean a new definition. Greeks come in, and all of a sudden it becomes, I'm going to let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me. Now, the minute I let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, I just reinforced what's happening inside of me. So now that forgiveness is gone, people accumulate, generation to generation to generation. Rages, pains, hatreds, vengeances, and fears, and those things play out in their lives. So our invitation to you is that you pick up the tool called forgiveness, not the Greek tool called forgiveness, not the fraud, but rather actual forgiveness. There is a technology for how you go inside yourself and change the source of your pain, and you remove your pain. So if you haven't been introduced to that tool as yet, then what I invite you to do is to go to our website. You want to put it on hold again for a second, honey? I invite you to go to our website. You're really feeding back. I invite you to go to our website, www.whyagain.com, www.whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, there's a link that says download worksheets. It's free. Please go there. Download the book too if you like. It's free, but go to the website. The first 2 links under download worksheets are an explanation of how to forgive. The second link is a worksheet process, a step-by-step set of tools for how you change what's happening inside of you, for how you forgive. Now, if you can actually understand that and accept that, then whenever you're in a conflict, instead of trying to shift somebody else, instead of trying to change them, the first order of business is that I go inside myself and I remove the root of my pain. Actual forgiveness has now been restored to planet Earth. Karl Marx loses. Karl Marx does not get to destroy a culture. Humans, I'd offer, cannot survive long term without forgiveness. Humans cannot keep accumulating rages, fears, griefs, pains, hostilities, gossip, slander, condemnation, and have no way of resolution. No way, and when I say resolution, I mean remove those things. You know, imagine if every time you typed in your computer retained the memory of every error made. How well would you be able to function with your computer? It would be really tough long term to function with your computer. So you have a delete key. You have a way to remove those errors. Humans, once forgiveness was removed and turned into pardoning, a Greek idea, lost the delete key. And so take a look around and you look at people in their, we see little old ladies driving down the street giving other people the finger. We see people raging. We hear about somebody who cut somebody off in traffic and sits at the next traffic light with a bullet in their head. Like, come on, folks. Let's wake up. We need to reestablish forgiveness on the planet. The cause of war is internal conflict. You can go all the way back in the book of James. They explain that in the ancient scriptures, exactly what the cause of war. What is the cause of war? And what they say is it is the conflict within your members, meaning within yourself. And so we invite you to celebrate with us the 8th day of Memorial Day. Really, truly honor those who were forced to kill and who killed, who were maimed, who were injured, and who had families left with untold quantities of suffering. Let's get this off the planet, folks. It's time for us to wake up. Maybe we can even get the military to change its mind, David. Jeannie, you've got a question or a comment for us?
We actually have a caller on the line, area code 607. You're on the air.
Hey, Michael, David, it's Richard. How you guys doing?
Hey, we're good. How are you?
I'm in pain. I'm in error.
Ouch. Well, breathe. What's happening?
Oh, I was mowed 2 lawns the other day, and apparently I had some shoes on that irritated one of my joints, and I've been in pain with gout for the weekend, and every time I wear my shoes and go out, it re-aggravates it, and last night it got to the point where my foot was swelling up, and I decided finally to go to get some outside care besides myself treating myself, and so I went to the convenient care place this morning to deal with it because what I was doing wasn't. I thought I was doing the things that I've done in the past that would alleviate it, but this time it just kept.
Right. How can we support you, sir?
Well, I guess that's why one of the understandings is the statement, if I'm in pain, I'm in error. I'm in pain, I'm in error. So where's the error?
Well, you may have to do a little bit of work around this one, seeing as how you've been carrying on. You said this gout's been a recurring thing, and but the kinds of things that I would look at if gout were going on, and in the feet usually have, this is just a general guideline in terms of issues that you might want to look at that would tend to put an energy into that tissue that doesn't belong there. Usually feet have to do with understanding, have to do with support, and gout has to do with irritation. So if you look at irritation around understanding and support. How do you feel about the way people in your life support you? Do you feel supported? And when you don't feel supported, is there irritation about it? Do you have issues in your life around which you don't have understanding and there's irritation? And so they'd be, maybe some clues as to worksheets that you could do to start to look at what's the underlying thing that is now expressing itself physically. And on a physical level, usually those acid deposits have to do with too much acidic input into the body, acid thoughts, acid feelings, things based in hostility and fear, and have to do with an overload of acid foods. So they might be some areas to take a look and see if that will support you in working through it.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I guess I don't need to go into the details, but certainly you brought a lot of things up for me which are occurring today in a different situation, and basically being around understanding. When you said the issue of understanding. There's a meeting going on I'm the treasurer of an organization, and I'm in New York, and the other members are out in California, and they're meeting with the bookkeeper today to understand some issues, and they brought it up, and I didn't quite understand it, so I sent an email to them, and I said, look, can somebody report back to me what's going on so I understand?
Was there irritation in the email?
No, but there's some irritations about some other stuff with the organization that's going on as well. So that's where the irritate. There's other stuff that's created the irritation, but this is also an issue for me to understand what's going on with the bookkeeping too. So I asked them to somebody to send me a report back so I understood, and I sort of got a little thing. Yes, Richard, we were planning to do that, so to speak. But anyway.
Well, that would be the area I'd do some worksheets in, and if any questions come up on the specifics of the worksheet, we'd love to hear questions about it. If there's any place in the worksheet that isn't making sense to you or you don't understand, please fire away with the questions specifically, and or get back to us with the results and let us know what happens. You may find that totally disappear right there on the spot.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Hey, delighted. Blessings, sir.
All right, bye-bye.
Jeannie, any other questions or comments in the chat room? Anybody else on the phone with a question? Is Dr. Tim with us this morning?
I do not see Dr. Tim in the switchboard, and he's not in the chat room.
Okay. Well, that's unusual.
Yeah. But I would like to share, got an email from someone that had a relative that was in prison, and we sent her a book. And the girl called and said that she got the book on Friday, and that the guard who gave it to her, of course, they open everything, and the guard that gave it to her said, quote, "There's some very interesting stuff in there. Your family must really care about you. There's some really good stuff in that book." And so she's
let's
excited.
Write her back and tell her that we'll gladly send the guard a book. Let's write her back. Tell the sister that's in jail to communicate with the guard, and we'll gladly send the guard a book. All we need is a name and an address. We'd be delighted to do that, and or that they can download the book online. And speaking about jail, there's a young man he's in his early 20s, got into drug problems. We've just been talking actually with Reverend Jane, and if Reverend Jane's on the show, maybe you call us and tell us a little bit more about what's happening. But one of her congregants has a son that went to jail over some drug issues, and so the father arranged for us to send a book, and this was about probably, I guess it's close to a year now ago that we sent that. So here's this young man now who's 20, I believe 22, if I remember correctly, who's in prison. And I forget how long he's there, but it's not a short-term sentence. And he's passed the book around, and 15 different people in the prison have read the book, and he's teaching people to do worksheets. How awesome is that? So here they are. They don't even know it, but they're celebrating Memorial Day with us, that they're moving out the issues in themselves that produce hostility and fear. What an awesome gift to give the world. And actually, I just heard from Reverend Jane, and if you're there, call us, Jane. Where are you, young lady? And you folks who have been on the show regularly know her as St. Jane, but she is the minister at True Light Church in Anderson, Indiana. So if you happen to be there, Jane, call us and let us know how that project's going. But anyway, the last time I talked to Jane, she was going to have us send books to about 15 different people. We haven't gotten those names yet. But awesome. Glad to hear that email, Jeannie. That's fabulous. I love it. I love how it just moves from person to person to person. Imagine, last week David was talking about a video that he had watched on people being put in isolation in prisons, and not calling it isolation anymore, but rather, if I remember correctly, David, it was administrative separation or administrative something like that, some double-speak term, so that they could just keep doing the insanity. They know it drives people insane. They know exactly what it does, but, the insane keep doing the insane things. And so we're just looking here to hold the space of love. Love those who would do. Not love because we can't love somebody, but be love for those who would do the insane things that are going on in our world. And, when you turn your darkness towards someone who's in darkness, you simply reinforce the darkness. When you turn your light towards someone who's in darkness, there's a good possibility they'll go, oh, my goodness, look at that light. I think I'll go for some of that. I think I'd like to have some of that. You've got a caller, Jeannie?
No, I was just going to also share that we got on our website, you can click on Contact Us, and there's just some generic, whether you're just contacting correspondence or whatever. And so this was just a random email, not somebody that knows us personally, and they had bought the book in Sweden, and half of her email is in Swedish, so I can't read it. But I think it says, thank you very much for your book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, and what you can do about it. I would very much like to know when you're going to come around. So they're asking for us in Sweden.
Well, we are actually going to be in Italy in November, and we were looking at perhaps doing some work in Sweden at the same time, looking at where we might go in Europe to take the work. Last year we got to take it to England, thanks to Paolo and his wife, who set up a workshop for us there. And so we're slowly spreading. The book is now, and you can download it free on the website in German, English, Russian, Spanish, Farsi. The Swedish folks who published the book wouldn't let us put it on the website free, so you have to order the book in Swedish, and we do have those books, and I forget how much they are. I think they're $40. It's a hardback book, so in Swedish I believe it's $40, but we do have some copies of that if you want to pass it on. Otherwise, those other languages, invite anybody you know, Russia, Germany, Iran. Let's get these tools into people's hands. Let's get them out around the planet. And we can correct the insanity that's going on in our planet. And a quote that I happen to have in front of me that I had actually thought about starting the show out with a couple of days. It's a quote that we've used before, but it comes from a man named Gerald Jampolsky. Gerald Jampolsky is a psychiatrist, and he's the author of Forgiveness and Love is Letting Go of Fear. And here's what Dr. Jampolsky says: if I were allowed to rewrite the American Psychiatric Association Diagnosis Manual, it would be one page. And that one page would read, insanity is when we are not experiencing ourselves as love and giving that love away. And, of course, he defines sanity in the reverse, experiencing yourself as love and extending that love to others, whatever's going on in their lives. And we have all kinds of people who know nothing about that process, who want to advise you and tell you how you should live your life. We have, David was just telling us about a woman who specializes in training people how to resolve conflict. And her conflict resolution tool is, I just tell each person who's involved what's wrong with them, what their mistake is. And, we want to go back to the original roots of human life. And, if you don't have an experience in that, you look at most of the specialties of the world, and it's only the person who can stand as the active presence of love that has that experience, that can actually authoritatively talk about it. There's an interesting quote that goes back to, I don't even know, I think, pre-Christian times. Marcus Aurelius, he says this: the opinions of 10,000 men are of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. So if you want to get support in living Jampolsky's definition of sanity, you're going to have to find somebody who's sane. And there'll be lots of people. I mean, I've had people who've told me about what their therapist told them, et cetera, and it's just such bizarre advice from the point of view of a human life. And for those who are new to the show, we define human life very, very simply. All you have to do to define a human life is hold a newborn child. That's all you need. And once you do that, you get to experience, once again, who you are. And then the work that we're talking about is the how-to, or the tools of being able to reestablish yourself as a human being, as the active presence of love, that simply offers that love no matter who, no matter what. Now, I haven't met anybody who's perfect at that yet. I certainly put myself in the category of those who have not yet perfected their skills in doing that. Like everybody else, I still have my stuff. Every once in a while, David gives me the look and my stuff comes up. Actually, it's even been known that once in a while, Jeannie gives me the look and my stuff comes up. But that's my stuff. And we all have our stuff. And the work, the work is about changing literally our whole genetic history. Look at the history of violence on the earth, and you know what's in your genetics. Look at what's going on in your family system and in your culture, in your world, and you know what's in your genetics. They said to this man Yeshua 2,000 years ago, how do you tell what's going on inside of somebody? If you've got this unconscious state, if you've got this dissociated mind, how do you tell? He says, look at their fruit. Look at the results they're producing. Now, if you take a look, you just need to sit for 2 minutes in front of a newscast to look at how much insanity is going on out there. And people say, well, but Michael, that looks like such a difficult thing to do, to change all of that. Well, fortunately, you don't have to change all of it. You only need to change your own. And it's difficult to live in your own if your own is based in hostility and fear. And it's inconceivable for somebody whose life has been based in hostility or fear to think that, I could actually live in the world I live in with all the people around me that are around me, and I could actually be experiencing the presence of love 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and be functioning out of that? Michael, that's crazy. That's impossible. Who could do that? Only a saint could do that. Well, I don't know any saints personally. Some people are pretty close to it. Actually, we spent some time yesterday with a man who is considered to be the confirmed reincarnation of the Buddha of wisdom in the Tibetan tradition. We spent some time with him yesterday. We're going to be actually getting together with him again tonight. And he was sharing with me how, before he escaped from China, how they had nailed his wrists up to a wall and tortured him. And yet this man has the sweetest spirit. And his whole conversation is about negative thinking versus positive thinking. And that when we get lost in our negative thinking, we fill our bodies, we fill our lives, we fill our minds, we fill our emotions, we fill our reactions, we fill our world with negativity. And then, of course, we want to blame everybody else. And what we're looking to do is not get you to blame yourself for it. That's the next step of the non-being mind. You say, oh, you mean I'm to blame? No, you're not to blame. You're just responsible. You're responsible for what's in your field. And the way that Kempo, which kind of means professor in the Tibetan world. The way that Kempo speaks of it is you've got to decrease your negative thinking and increase your positive thinking. And he actually came to us looking for the tool of forgiveness, and we've shared it at his center and with his students, and are actually going to work with him with it some more tomorrow. But this healing process is one that is awesomely powerful if you choose to engage in it. Now, if you want to live in a world where, I think I'd just rather keep blaming everybody else, then, this isn't for you, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. If you're not ready to face your generational dynamics, then at least now you know it's possible. And when it's time, you'll do it. You'll jump in. You'll jump on board. Day 8, celebrating Memorial Day. Each one of us facing one thing we're willing to forgive and let loose of to eradicate war from the planet. Jeannie, you've got a caller.
Area code 954. You're on the air.
Sounds
Hello.
like South Florida. Who do we have from South Florida? Is this Nene?
The wonderful Nene.
All right. Good to hear from you, young lady. How do you be?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you very much. And I would like to share something very interesting that I experienced.
Yes.
And it's in reference to relationships and this work. One of my biggest issues in relationships was always that I was engaged with somebody very, very cold, and always I was left for another woman. They always leave me for another woman. Okay, so I've been doing
is this a generational pattern?
Yes, so was my mom, and in my family. And very Latin. That's very Latin. The culture, Latin
right.
culture, it's very common that the man divorces you or leaves you for another. There's another one.
Right.
There's always another one. Okay, so I've been cleaning my stuff, and really my relationship has been better. So I started dating one of my students who's a little bit older than I am, but now he became a widower, and we started dating, and he said that, bring the possibility to perhaps be more exclusive and then eventually getting married. And I said, oh, great, I'm, going to be proposed, and he was pretty serious about it. Okay, so he left. He lives in New Jersey. I was supposed to go there for a weekend, and then he came back. All of a sudden, he calls me I'm taking an airplane. I need to talk to you. So when he comes, it's telling me that that he can't do this, that he feels he's older, and that an older lover he had, now he's a widower, she came back, and he feels more comfortable with the other woman. So here comes the pattern again.
Right.
And I immediately used all my tools, everything, the responsible communication. And I really felt that I was being sincere. And then I took care of my things. I did my worksheet and everything.
Right.
And then I spoke with him the next day, and he was really surprised that I did not blame, that I did not, had a argument with the fight or physical aggression. He was really so surprised. And then I reminded him that we had done some workshops together and that I'm really embracing my new life. Okay, so that was Thursday and Friday. So I did my worksheet and I did a MindShifter. Shifter, and 2 other of my friends joined me. I say each one is going to do their MindShifter, and we on Saturday we did the breathing. Very nice. And then waking up from the breathing, when I came back from the breathing, I told Maria, I said, Maria, there's something else, and I felt that being number one, I realized that being number one or being the wife was pretty associated or very linked to pain, being cheated, and being left for another woman. So each time a relationship could become something permanent and that I would be the wife or number one, of course, all this pattern showed up. And Michael, I did another worksheet, and I invoked my Ruja, and I did everything, and it melted in front of my eyes. I felt something like a crystal broke, something like that, and I've been laughing and been enjoying for the last 2 days immensely.
And you didn't require something outside of you to change for that to happen.
Yeah,
right?
I went in. Yeah, I did my work. And after the breathing, when I woke up from my breathing, I saw like a number 1. I realized, I said, oh my God, there is a link between that it wasn't a pattern of my family, and I feel liberated from that.
Nice work, young lady. Thank you for giving us an awesome example of how the tools work. And, when I think that you were introduced to the work, I believe it was the 2nd of January was your first workshop that we did in Fort Lauderdale, and the kind of changes that have taken place in your world because you got committed and you really dug in. And by the way, it would be cool if you would contact the minister at CSL and let her know about your experience. We're going to be talking with her about our next round of workshops and whether they're going to be free or not. It was the first time in about 25 years where we charged a fee for a workshop because they insisted on it. But if you would do that, that would be cool so that she gets the power of what's happening. And I really acknowledge you for your courage to face what you need to face, and that's major. Wow. And to work through it.
Michael was great, and I was able to say what is triggered inside of me. I said I feel abandoned. I was able to go to my feelings, but I didn't blame. I was so in my integrity, so certain, so loving, and I held his hand, and I told him, about if anything unlike comes in our relationship. I did that phrase, and he was in shock, and then he was in tears and all that, and I said, I'll support you in whatever you want to do in your new creation. I'm there for you, as a creator, and my goal for you is to be who you want to be. Those are your beliefs, and they make you happy with the other person, that's fine. And, I feel...
Well, that's how you create the space for true relationship to show up.
Nene just got kicked off of the line there, so she's not going to hear your response.
Oh, okay.
Maybe she'll call right back in.
Call back in. Yeah. Thank you, sweetie. So we'll give the phone a second to ring and see if the Nene gets back to us before we make any comments on her call. But for those who are new to the work, if that sounds impossible for you, Nene was introduced to the work 6 months ago, dug in, and has been doing her work ever since. And I guess you could just say that, she decided to take the bull by the horns, has worked through some major issues with Dad. She shared in one of her earlier calls back several months ago about, hey there, young lady, I was just filling the space. You got to call back in. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, well, I think the energy was so strong.
Well, I just really acknowledge you and hold the space for you that you're that clear. And, most women who've been put into that posture who have created that sort of a situation, or men, I can only say that we've worked with lots of men in the same position where the women they're with spurn them, and the pain and the trauma and the hurt and the rage is just so great that they can't see any other possibility. And it's just so awesome that you do that, and I appreciate the fact that you pick up the phone and you share what is happening in your world with our whole audience, that people can go, oh, is that really possible? And it is. It's not only possible, it's normal.
And I would say the wonderful ending of this is, first of all, there's no damage, no physical damage, really. There's no hard feelings whatsoever. Then he called me back crying, telling me that I was a beautiful flower of wisdom, and that in everything he feels now more in peace for what, in us. And then he said, I'm going to be always your friend, and I'm going to help you with your daughter coming in here. I'm going to help you with that. And so it's like we have a true link now. We have a true relationship. And then he took me and he said, I'm going to give you a gift for you to honor you. And he bought me this beautiful pair of diamonds. It's earring.
Well, you've been acknowledged as the true being that you are.
Yep.
That's called human behavior. And you know what you just did? In concert with our request to celebrate Memorial Day every day, you just made a major difference on planet Earth. You just opened an energy window for a dynamic that drives people nuts, that has people murdering and abusing and doing all sorts of crazy things. You just open the energy window a little wider for that whole dynamic to disappear. And for every human being to function as a human being, for every man to be a true, honest, integritous man, for every woman to be a true, honest, integritous woman, manipulation gone, being shows up. What an awesome contribution to make. Thank you. Thank you.
Big heck.
Glad to be on the team with you, and we'll hope to connect with you when we're in South Florida at the end of the month. We're going to be doing a keynote presentation at the Regency Resort, and I actually had to talk to them to find out if people who aren't actually part of the whole conference can come on that opening evening. I'll have to check with them, and we'll make an announcement on the show as to how that will work. So, but thank you for your call. That's awesome. Jeannie, any other callers, comments, or questions, thoughts in the chat room?
No. A little earlier there was a comment. Sam and her friend Heather are in the chat room, and Sam said she saw the documentary last night called Solitary Confinement, and about how it drives the prisoners crazy, and they think that people can function in society when they're released, and that happened to bring up a remembrance of watching Shawshank Redemption, and how the guy, after he was released, and he couldn't function.
Yeah, sadly, there's a reality that's enforced in people's minds in punitive situations that make people dysfunctional. I mean, when you put humans under the stress and strain of forced hostility and fear, especially humans who are already there. And I don't care whether it's in situations of war, the trauma that so many of our military go through, most people don't have a clue what's going on. But the number of suicides, I don't remember, David, I think maybe had those statistics, the number of suicides on a daily basis for people coming back from the Middle East right now is unconscionable. But we don't talk about that. The number of cases of abuse in their families, the number of cases of drug and alcohol abuse is just unconscionable. When you force people into hostility or fear, human life disappears. And what we're looking to do, and we ask you, we're appealing to you to assist us here. We're looking to create a space where human life shows back up on the planet. And for human life to show up, Danae just shared with us, here's what I just worked through, something out of my family system where the tradition is women get dumped for another woman. It's a tradition, and a painful tradition. And for this young woman to have the courage in 6 months to face that, having watched it happen with her own mother, having experienced it, have the courage to work through that. And you can't work through it if you don't have the tools. There are known tools, and those tools have been disappeared from planet Earth. The main tool is that of forgiveness. What Nene did is she went inside herself and systematically on a daily basis, and I know she shared with me she was doing her committed 5 worksheets a day. Systematically on a daily basis, you look inside yourself and you remove the source of your trauma. You remove the source of your trauma, you remove the source of your trauma, and then if you're in trauma, you do another worksheet and you remove more of it and more of it and more of it until the generational insanity is gone and you're restored to a human life. We can do this on planet Earth with every mind, heart, and being. We can eliminate the need to invest trillions of dollars to go and kill people. We only kill people because we're in pain and we think we can't have what they have. And it's time for us to wake up. Memorial Day, Day 8. What are you going to forgive today in your life? I mean, a real, honest-to-goodness issue where you can say to yourself, well, maybe I could be blaming them, but here I am in pain. And you'll notice Nene didn't say, well, then everything turned around and everything's wonderful, I'm happy with that. What Nene did was went back and reclaimed, in a circumstance that otherwise shows her great pain, she went back and reclaimed her human life. Now, if that relationship isn't right, isn't the one that's going to support her human life to the max, what she just did by reclaiming her human life is open the space for the true relationship that will be able to support her living as a true human to show up instead of being attached to, but it's got to be this. I have to have it my way. It's almost unexplainable in what are today's traditional so-called human terms, because human life has been virtually disappeared from the planet. Thank you, Nene, for your contribution. And yes, David was talking about that video on solitary last week, and you want to talk about insanity in a culture. We've got it, and we're working through it. And let's remember that the key is to hold the space for those who are functioning in an insane way. Anytime you have a response based in hostility or fear, you're functioning out of insanity. And our definition of insanity is a mind without the active presence of love. We've been talking about a mind without the active presence of love being an insane mind for decades. Gerald Jampolsky's put it in writing as a psychiatrist. Are you ready to reclaim your human life and therefore your sanity? And notice that Nene, and thank you for that awesome example, Nene, where she could have been in drama and trauma and pain, which she has been in the past, and watched her mom go through it, notice that what Nene did was she functioned as a sane human being. The man who's doing whatever he's doing, she's able to communicate in a loving, nurturing, supportive way, instead out of rage and fear. Now, those who live in rage and fear would say, well, that's insane. Why doesn't she go just chop off his head? Well, that would add to the war game on the planet. There'd be more of it. But what she did is she functioned as a human being. She's going to be the winner out of that dynamic. That's going to serve her eternal life. She will win because she functioned as a human. And we're here to support you winning in every circumstance of your life. Now, that doesn't mean you get every infantile demand that you have met and everything's, everybody kowtows to what you want. That's not what it means. It means that you get to function out of a human life. You get to function as a human being, as love. And so we're here to support you in that. That's our work. Actually, the thought that comes to mind is in the ancient teachings, they had a church thing, what happened in churches, and it became about churchianity instead of about what was really going on. But if you look, and the word for, in the original traditions in the so-called Christian world, the original tradition was, to go to Mass. And the word Mass is actually its roots, or people coming together to celebrate that thing, was actually called liturgy. And the word liturgy literally means our common work. It wasn't about coming together to buy into somebody's dogma and belief system about what somebody did 2,000 years ago. In its origins, in its roots, it was about coming together to do our common work, to create a space of support, a community of support where we live in the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God is not a religious thing in Aramaic. The words the kingdom of God mean the community of love. So what we're working toward on our show is to build a community of love. And if you are part of this community and you have some sort of rage or fear or grief or hatred or vengeance or pain, we're going to hold the space. We're going to support you with the tools of letting go of that so that you get to live in the kingdom of God here and now. Not off in space somewhere, not up in the sky, right here, right now. You can get to live, what Nene just described as living in the community of love. And that's what we're here to support you in. And, of course, that's what we're here to learn ourselves. And the only work you need to do that is to clean up your whole genetic history. That's all. Now, I say that sort of flippantly, but there's work to be done. And it can be done. Is it easy? No. If you come from 1,000 generations of people who never knew it was even possible, it seems like the impossible dream. It is not the impossible dream. We just heard from a young woman who went from drama and trauma in 6 months to where the worst thing that the average woman could probably have happen to them is exactly what she had happen. And what did she do? She functioned as a human being. Thank you, Nene. Thank you for your contribution. And thank you for opening up that space and allowing us to know that it's possible. Jean, do we have any questions, comments in the chat room or anybody phoning in?
No one has phoned in. There's several people out there just listening. The conversation in the chat room is one person said that they had just learned something, that they had been trying to figure out why people have to die, and now they know it's because they are in pain internally. And I wrote in there, that it says in the scriptures that with man, death began, that we made it up and we bought into it, that if we can remove everything from within and get back to actually being alive, being connected to our source, that we could possibly step into eternal life without having to let this body die.
Yep, we made it up. Energy systems can't die. Relationships don't die. Love doesn't die. It has to be murdered. How do you murder it? You play out of hostility and fear, out of manipulation, out of grief. As Nene just shared, her friend, when she responded lovingly, was shocked. It's like, what's wrong with you, woman? You should be beating up on me. You should be, no, I'm going to function as a human being. Well, but then she didn't get her way. Yeah, that's right. She didn't get her way. What did she get? She got to live in love in the space of something that otherwise would have been horribly traumatic. Sounds pretty cool to me. Sounds like an awesome result to me. And we're here to support you in being able to produce that result in your life, 24/7, 365. It's possible, folks. It's possible. It's not possible without the tools. And remember, almost 2,000 years ago, the tool of forgiveness was disappeared. It was disappeared by using a technique that Karl Marx talked about, and that was change the meaning of the word. We're here to reestablish the meaning of the word forgive. It is a tool with which you go inside yourself and remove everything based in hostility and fear so that you are restored to the active presence of love. That's forgiveness. And we're here to support you learning that. And if you haven't touched into it yet, please go to the website, www.whyagain.com. Right-hand side, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. Download the worksheet. Second link is the actual worksheet. First link is an explanation. That first link is actually a new chapter 24 of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, with some of the new information on forgiveness. You're also welcome to go to the site, download the book, and read the whole thing. And it's actually very much the story from the other side of the conversation that Nene just had with us. It's a story about a character named Richard, who's this recalcitrant kind of guy who doesn't want to hear anything I'm talking about. He thinks this conversation of responsibility and forgiveness is insane. He just knows that now that he's on his third divorce, what he has to do is get rid of these women. All he has to do is leave town. It's the third time women have done this to him, and all he has to do is get rid of them, get out of town, and everything will be okay. It's called the geographic cure. And you'll notice if you've ever taken the geographic cure, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because everything based in insanity, everything based in hostility and fear produces a result. And it produces a result just like the tool that you use to engage in behavior. Engage in behavior based in the actual active presence of love, and you get to live a human life. We're here to support you in that. Questions or thoughts, Jeannie? David, where does that, have we seen Dr. Tim yet? Oh, Dr. Tim's with us. Good morning, or good afternoon in your part of the world.
It is. It's a good afternoon. And it's fabulous to hear of Nene's progress and what a fabulous example that is for all of us. But especially
are you ever on target with that one?
who's brand new to this work? It's even more powerful. So, thank you, Nene, and thank you for sharing. It's just a wonderful call.
Definitely. So does that bring any thoughts up for you, Dr. Tim? For those who don't know Dr. Tim is a psychologist in Crystal Lake up near Chicago who teaches this work far and wide and has a support group if you're in the Crystal Lake area every Tuesday night. Am I remembering correctly?
Yep.
Tuesday nights at the Unity Center there in Crystal Lake.
Yep.
So feel free to join. You can look on the website for contact information and how to get to that support group. But does our conversation so far elicit any thoughts from you or any insights or anything to share? Or how's your process going?
Well, just the thought I would have for today is that it really helps me. I've thought about this for a while. A lot of times when you speak about the active presence of love and that being a real human life and how people are not in that active presence of love, I always substitute in my mind the thought, I'm not focusing my awareness on my active presence of love. Because the fact of the matter is, I can't ever be disconnected from it. That's all there is. And I create the dream of separation. I create fantasy that I could do this all on my own, and that I'm separate from my source's love, and that's the thing that's causing me pain.
Right.
So
all it is a picture in the mind.
Yeah, and I get a lot of people coming in. I just had another person in the office not long ago who was saying, I need to find a way to believe I'm lovable. I need to get in touch with my love. I need to be lovable. And it's as though someone has a great treasure and they put it in their pocket and then they forget it's there. And then they go chasing around in everybody else's pockets, trying to beg, borrow, or steal everybody else's clothes and purses and bags, trying to find that great gift, which is their very nature.
You mean like looking for love in all the wrong places? The kids had it right there I guess it's more than just a couple of decades ago they sang that song, but they were so right on track with looking for love in all the wrong places. And that's what most everybody on the planet is doing, is they're hoping that somebody outside of them will fulfill a need that is only fulfillable from inside. They're looking to solve problems in the outer world where the problem isn't, instead of looking into the inner world where the problem is and is resolvable. That's the whole bottom line of why humans go to war, why they kill each other. And we can change that. We are changing that. That dynamic is changing on planet Earth today as a result of the work each of us is doing. And you know, when I look at the quantity, if you quantify it, of insanity on the planet and go back, through history, and the millions of insane minds that say this is too much, it's too big a project. But if you go to what the Aramaic says is that a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. I don't think he was talking about a loaf of bread. He was talking about us as humanity. That it's only going to take a few humans who are willing to own what's going on in their lives. And as they do, forgive, they embody, again, bring back to awareness that human life. And as you embody a human life, you become part of the leavening that changes the whole of what's happening on the planet. What an awesome opportunity. And what an awesome possibility we have to be the generation, because we now have physics, because we now have science, because we now have the field of psychology, that now we can go back, that we've got the brain cells and see that it was understood 2,000 years ago. And here we are. And tap in tomorrow. We're going to be in Eugene, Oregon next week. Tap in tomorrow. Bring a guest with you and have the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessings.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.